Thank you for joining us at the Art of Nervous System Care Summit. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie, and I'll be facilitating this conversation for this session on Laughter is Medicine, How Joy, Humor, and Spiritual Lightness Reset the Nervous System. Melissa Abel is joining us for this session today, and she brings a rare mix of humor, intuition, and real-world honesty. Thank you for joining us today, Melissa.
Thank you so much for the invitation, for having me, and for selecting this particular topic for me, because it happens to be my passion. You know, it's part of my essence ever since I was born. So it aligns so perfectly. Thank you.
I would totally agree, and I'm definitely excited for our conversation. So much healing work these days is framed around effort, struggle, or fixing what's wrong. So today, I'd like to explore a different doorway, one rooted in joy, humor, and spiritual lightness. From your perspective, Melissa, why does laughter matter?
It's kind of wild. There's so much around this, and in preparation for this today, I've been researching and studying all the neuroscience, the therapy, the trauma, everything, and really have quite a bounty of information in here. And yet what I took from it, as much of as a joyful, kind of laughing everyday person that I am, everything that I've learned about it makes me want to embrace it even more, because it's incredible. There's short-term benefits, long-term benefits. There's it's like, not only is it good for our immune system, our memory, our blood flow, our heart, rhythm, our breathing. It really resets the nervous system, and all that's good and well. To me, like, you could talk all day about, well, what's so good about what is the medicine of laughter, but who cares? Because unless we're feeling it, it's almost like we know broccoli's good for us, and we can, it's like, well, we either do it or not. Like, to me, trying to talk about laughter in terms of all this, the research and everything, is kind of missing the point. So to your question, the guides that I work with, that's my life work, is doing readings and, intuitive things. And they highly prize laughter. I mean, it's probably one of the things. Sometimes they go so far as to tell a person, you keep us in stitches. If not for you, you were so bored. We love the way you see the world. We love your sense of humor. And then you think, like, wow, if high dimensional spirit values laughter so much and joy, maybe there's something more here. And they always, the way they describe it to me is, laughter is cathartic, just as tears are. But they say, tears fall, but laughter rises. And that it puts us immediately in the now. So there's no past, kind of suspends our mind. We're just in it. And I know Laraji is this amazing meditation teacher, musician, and peace activist. And I've had the benefit over many years of doing some of his laughter meditations, and kind of like laughter yoga now is. But he would always call it a laughgasm. That a laughgasm would be, it would reset your nervous system and aligns you with your emotions. It does so much good for us, and it does suspend the mind, and I love the way the guides describe it. One thing they always say is, if you don't know what to do to be in alignment, or to create a happy life or a joyful life, or what you want, just laugh. Because when you're laughing, you're already in that zone. You don't need to think about it. And so there's so much to it, even beside the actual scientific research and all the studies, which there have been many. It's a global language, for sure. So
that's really fascinating. And there's just so much wisdom in what you just said. And I mean, how amazing that they're entertained by us. And I mean, honestly, with some of the things I do, I can see where they would be. With me specifically, that was just fascinating. We've talked a lot about self-regulation during the summit, but laughter Laughter is often relational. Can you speak to how shared humor, play, and even small moments of connection help co-regulate the nervous system, especially for people who feel isolated?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so one thing they've studied, the research says that we laugh a lot more with others than by ourselves. I might be the exception to that, but anyway, that it's such a bonding, it's such a community experience, but also fascinatingly, they say that humans, a million years before language, laughter was the language. It was the way we communicated, and what it
Really?
typically, like, what it meant is if you would laugh, you were telling others there's safety about, we can relax, there's no danger. So it was really something. What it does when you laugh, it takes you out of it puts you into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is, we're at ease and we're not in fight or flight. So part of the joy of laughing with others is, oh my gosh, what an interchange, what an exchange. So even it just does so much. And the other kind of thing that I learned that is fascinating is that children, apparently children as young as 17 days, even if they're blind, even if they're deaf, they laugh, already. It's part of who we are. But also that children typically have between 300 and 400 belly laughs a day. And
Wow.
also, like, adults in comparison only have about 10, maybe 15 if we're lucky. So to me, with all this kind of like, oh, I think we found the true fountain of youth. I mean, like, kids are so full of vitality and vibrance and energy, and there's playfulness. And what if one of the most simple built-in keys to our well-being and happiness is simply to embrace more laughter? So whether you can do it with another, which is, to me, it's amazing, but also, I mean, every day I just find, that I'm laughing about something. Like, just the other day, I'm pretty open when it comes to scent, fragrance. I'm pretty okay. Like, but there's one kind of scent that it makes me physically ill. Like, I can't. I want to run screaming naked away from anything. So what do? I get a sample scent in a package, and I think, oh, what is this? And I look online for the reviews, and it's like, this is the best. It's like nobody doesn't like this. And so instead of like spraying it into the air, and of all the things, it's that one scent that I can't stand. And what did I do? I had to just laugh myself silly, like, of all the crazy things, Melissa. So it's amazing how much just embracing laughter at all is, but especially when you can laugh with another. One thing that I've learned too is, how someone will come up to you and say, oh my gosh, you had to see this on my phone. It's so funny. And a lot of times we're like, nah, but they're like, that's one of the best bonding things that we can possibly do is take that opportunity to connect in that way. And whether you think it's funny or not is kind of beside the point, but it's like, here, this is something that I love and I want you to see, because I think it's the best. So
I love that connection with that. So, do you feel laughter and joy is something that just happens when life allows it, or do you think of it more like a muscle, something we can intentionally strengthen and work with every day?
we definitely can intentionally strengthen and work with it, for sure. And now we know, I mean, it's beneficial. It's even beneficial for, they say 2 minutes of laughter, belly laughter, is equivalent to a 20-minute jog. Even cardiovascular benefits and, all of this, even muscles, so it's like, well, of course. But yeah, it's like, I've heard the researchers say, build a laughter library, that because all of our sense of humor is so unique to us. And I really feel like the tone, the sound, the way that we laugh is almost like the guides always say, this is your energetic signature, like a fingerprint, because they're not able to connect with our fingerprints, but they connect through our frequency, our voice, and
Right.
especially laughter. So it's like, even whatever's funny to you, it may not be funny to someone else, but build yourself a library of what you think is funny, and build on that so you can go in anytime. One thing that, if I may share something that happened recently, was well, before a session, I usually, before I work with somebody, 99% of the time I start picking up on the vibes, and for whatever reason, this feeling was foreboding. It was dark and heavy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is getting ready to happen here? And the guide said, go online and Google, videos of uncontrollable laughter. And I think I brought up like a 2-minute reel, and they said, play this. And I did. And by the time the reading, got underway, I mean, I was in a much more elevated state, but it ended up to be something really intense and dark. So it was almost preemptive joy, that kind of thing. And it's so amazing how this takes shape for us. We don't even know why we're doing something. One thing that the guides have reminded me of from years ago, about almost 30 years, I was at a spiritual conference a whole week. It was a really wonderful, huge conference with big names, life spectrums back in the day. And for some reason, it's a week-long thing. My friend and I, who we went together, we had gone to the store the first day of the conference to get some snacks, and for some reason we got whoopee cushions. They were right by the checkout,
You're
And
scaring me.
yeah, like, because the thing about it is, I would have been an anti whoopee cushion person. I was like, that's not my sense of humor. But for whatever reason, we grabbed these things, and the whole week was not only us, having fun with each other, but the speakers, the attendees. The week was probably 7 days of more laughter than I'd ever done in my whole life. Great giant peals and guffaws. And anyway, you just think, well, that's weird. This is weird. And what happened was, not even 10 days after we got back from the conference, my life took this absolute fork that I never saw coming. In that my dad, 59 years old, he had just turned, he died while driving of an aneurysm. So life just took this crazy fork, because he was a baby of 7 children. His parents lived well into their 80s and 90s. And so what the guides are telling me now was that was preemptive immunity. It boosted your immune system. It was preemptive joy. Your nervous system knew this was coming. And like, of all the crazy things, right, to be like, oh, this is interesting. Just like I think I shared before, when I had this kind of crazy notion while driving to my mom's, look up a clean comedy playlist. And I'd never done that before. And I didn't even listen to it on the way there. And then I got really, really sick at her house, to the point where everyone wanted me to go to the hospital. And I had a little break where I felt like, I think I might be able to drive home, but I still felt like hot death, but at that, when I got in my car, that playlist just started rolling. But what I noticed was, when I got home, because I'd been laughing the entire way, pulled up into the driveway and realized, like, I am completely well, as though
Wow.
nothing ever happened. And, just that the guides always say laughter, the high frequency of it, your spirits are so high. Nothing untoward can really abide in that, including illness. So it's just been so profound, even in looking back, like, wow, something in me knew, where I would have been the person that would never touch a whoopee cushion, but there I was, and what that did for me. So kind of wild, isn't it, when you think about those things?
It really is, and I love that you literally cured yourself with the laughter on
Not
that
even
drive home,
realize it.
and
Yeah.
not even realizing it. So you had mentioned with that reading that the guide said, given you some direction about the YouTube. So there's a lot of tools that are available. I think many times people feel like laughter and silliness needs to be or like organic, just randomly happen. But we can facilitate that ourselves, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, like I was really surprised because I wasn't in the mood to look at a laughter reel, but there were like babies laughing hysterically, and I just couldn't help but laugh. And I think we all have our favorites of things that kind of make us laugh. And that there was that time during COVID when we were all adjusting to Zoom, and there was that famous reel of that lawyer that had a filter. Someone had he was a cat, and the judge, they were trying to have a Zoom hearing, and the judge said, "No, I think you have this filter," and the lawyer said, "I think we can proceed. I'm not a cat. I'm judge. I'm not a cat." Like that never fails to completely. I just dissolve into tears laughing at that one, because so we all have what tickles us.
Right.
Um, yeah. So to build a library that you can kind of keep in a file, or like a draft of like, this is what I can go to myself. This is what I find really uplifting.
So let's take this another step. So you build your library, you have it, but sometimes that's not the issue holding you back. Many of us were taught explicitly or implicitly that pleasure has to be earned, or that joy comes after healing. Your thoughts on helping people reclaim permission to feel
Love
good
it.
now,
Love
even
it.
while they're healing.
Absolutely. In fact, the research that I've done, most trauma therapists, that they absolutely, with no equivocation, say there is no possibility of healing from trauma without moments of play and laughter. It's not even possible. And they described how, even people with severe PTSD, as you have a moment, maybe it's just a shared laugh, maybe it's a smile. It's almost like a stitch that undoes the old trauma, and it's weaving in this new. You're out of fight or flight. You're out of the hypervigilance, where it's like we can have joy, and then it almost supplants the old trauma after just these tiny little, they call it like doses of joy, of laughter, of humor. So it's so much more important, than we can even know. The other funny thing is, my guides, when I work with somebody, a lot of times they'll just be so funny. I mean, the one-liners, and they just love the hijinks. And what I realize though is that is the highest frequency. So I know one thing we've learned when if you go to a medium, if you're really sad about who you lost and the memories, and I'm so sad and I'm lonely without them, it's going to be next to impossible for you to get a real, charged message from that person, because you're blocking it. The best thing they always say is, think about when we would laugh, or, I have people, I think we all have our top 10 of people whose laughter itself is a tonic, is hilarious. And,
Yeah.
they always say, remember those joyful moments before you go to a medium, because they're like, instead of a radio dial trying to get through with your frequency, it's like you punch it in, like it's a set station, and I still remember my dad laughing at Seinfeld episodes, and he would laugh so hard sometimes that he would snort. And to me, when you're in the snorting zone, like there's nothing like it, kind of thing. So it's so cathartic, it's so spiritual. But the other thing that the guides say about that, and also all kinds of experts, is that laughter is depth with ease.
Depth
Laughter
with
is depth
ease.
with ease. So we think of how laughter and joy might, they say it's not the opposite of trauma. Numbness is the opposite of trauma. So when you have lightness and joy and humor and laughter, it reconnects you. It's opening you again to your alignment, to your emotions, to your healing. And it's with ease. Now, is that like the best ever?
Absolutely. I love it. So I just want to riff on this in a different way, only because this comes up a lot. I feel like you've answered this, but I want to address it specifically for what it is. Some people might worry that laughter or lightness can become a form of spiritual bypass. So we hear about spiritual bypass all the time, skipping over pain instead of honoring it. Can you share your insights on telling the difference with nervous system supportive joy versus avoidance that could be construed as a spiritual bypass, and how might that difference look for people?
Oh, what a great question, because I think we've all been down the spiritual bypass road a time or two, no matter what. And it's always the mind though, because yeah, it's just like, and I think we're all getting so tired of that. All the this year, according to the guys, is about really embodying. It's enough of the mind crap, and so to that point, laughter gets you out of the mind. It gets you in direct, momentary, the now, where there's nothing before, there's nothing ahead. You're in the now. It is very much like an orgasm in that, you're not, thinking about your taxes when you're experiencing that. So to me, laughter, like the guys say, if you don't know what to do, laugh, because then you're absolutely aligned. You don't have to question it. You are. If you set yourself up like that, then everything. You've got a bank account of good and joy and happy times coming. So to me, it's almost like an insurance against spiritual bypass, because like they say, like laughter is not, or lightness is not, it's not bypassing depth at all. It's not avoiding trauma. And it's like, well, even gallows humor. I mean, sometimes what I love, and I think we've all said it a time or two about someone we love when they're getting near the end, maybe they've been in hospice, and what do we say? They had their sense of humor to the end. Like they were still themselves because they had their sense of humor. And so it's such a part of us, even to think that it was a language that we had before we had enough lung capacity for enough strength for language itself, and how we do it when we're infants, days and hours old, doesn't I think
that blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't think we even know the half of it. I really don't, so I hope that, to me, it's like, yeah, you are assured that you're not spiritually bypassing if you're in laughter,
Perfect. I think it's important, and just because there's so much discussion and conversation and labeling that goes with that you did a beautiful job of addressing that. So Melissa, when I hear the word spiritual lightness, so I had a hard time wrapping my head around the word spiritual lightness for a while. It almost sounds like a form of trust in life, trust in the body, something like larger than ourselves. How do you see trust showing up? And if needed, how can laughter help restore it?
That's another, so your question is so dialed in to what is the quote truth and the research about laughter, in that it's almost like even when life is falling apart, when you've lost somebody, when it looks like there's no hope, if you can have just a moment of laughter, it's like it reminds your body that it's okay. It gives you perspective. It helps you kind of zoom out, and it says, you're still alive, you're still here, you're still breathing. And it's just that very thing of like the truth of it, laughter is never going to take away, what happens in life and some of the heaviness. Although, my gosh, it can be so valuable no matter what situation you're in. They say first responders always use kind of dark humor, and obviously, where it might not be appropriate somewhere else, but it's absolutely appropriate in that situation. I know we had a friend who was in at home hospice, and he was trying to stay alive for his son's wedding, and the photographer came, and it was at home, and it was around Halloween, and he would pretend to have died as the photographer. It was like, not yet. It was like time and again He did like the movie, he's died. And just the funny, like he never lost that. And just even like when another dear friend went into cardiac arrest and they brought him back, but he wasn't conscious yet. So we're, waiting to see if he's going to come back. And what does he say? The first thing that he says when he opens his eyes, I'm back, and so you realize in these moments of even fear and scarcity, and you don't know if are you living or are you dying, like it assures us that we're all in this together, and there's never a lack of hope, as long as that you can see the lightness of it, so to me it embodies laughter, and joy embodies the spirit, the animating spirit of us. We are still here. Because I know one thing that was, I think, pretty heavy for all of us in December was what occurred with Rob Reiner and his wife.
Right.
I mean, the of all the times, and I mean the spotlight being on that, I think we all had a hard time with, like, oh my gosh, what in the world? Somebody that had always stood for laughter and joy, and to have this experience, and I think that community, a lot of comedians and people rallying around that. And even, do you remember when COVID just hit and SNL, or even 9/11, 9/11, if you remember, when SNL came back on, it's like, do we have permission to laugh again?
That's
You know,
important to
so important.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you related that to that, because the world feels really chaotic and uncertain. And I think that it's important to recognize that we do have to remember and give ourselves permission to go back with that. I love the example that you used with first responders. I spent much of my career in inner city emergency departments. And, laughter is what got you through a lot of stuff. And it was, I would say, many people might have found what we were laughing about disrespectful. Obviously, you're not doing it in front of those people, but if you're in the moment, it really allows you to keep a clear head and do what needs to be done. So I love that example. It was, as you were saying that, I was just starting to connect how important that was. And despite what we were doing and saying day in and day out, we did laugh. I did laugh a lot in that job.
What's really cool is research says that nurses, of all people, collectively have the best sense of humor.
Oh, yes, I would concur with that for sure.
How great is that?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. So you and I know that guidance doesn't always come through the serious, solemn moments that we just talked about. It can arrive through play, humor, or lightness in your thoughts. How can people begin to recognize joy and laughter as a legitimate form of spiritual guidance?
This is where the nervous system comes in, because laughter, they say that, your nervous system is really it's not just a biological, it's really an interface, spiritual interface, and how it allows us, like our nervous system, we always call it in the work that I do, the body mind, like the living library, the DNA. You just know things before your mind does. It's much faster. Just like, how did my nervous system or some part of me know to spend a week with a whoopee cushion? More laughing than I'd ever done in my life, because this big trauma was just ahead. I certainly didn't know that. And, there's so many things that we know. If you even think about muscle testing, kinesiology, it's like you're getting to the intelligence of the body, which is like the mind is like the tortoise in comparison to what the body knows. And think how many times that you went a different way somewhere, and then you saw that, oh, there was a big accident there just after that, and so many things that we don't even think about. It's interesting. There's this great time ahead, and And the guides are kind of telling me like it's off topic and it's not off topic. So it's like there's this big transit ahead. You could call it an astrological transit, but they're like it's really not. They're saying there's this opportunity ahead between February 20th and like the 1st of June to sow. It's almost like they're giving us these magic beans to sow, and these magic beans are going to have effect for the next 38 years or the rest of our known lives, as well as many future lives. It's a 9,000 year cycle. But what they're saying is like the most important thing, they're saying, even if you don't ever care about astrology or spirituality or anything like that, they're saying this is the one time, this is the most important time of our lives ahead, because if we choose to, we will get to expand the expression of our identity. And they kind of liken it to, if we think about coming into the world, being who we are, we've been like a line up to this point. We're a line. We love being a line. We know how to be a line. We wouldn't trade it for anything. But then as of this time coming, if we choose, we can become a square. And we might go kicking and screaming like, my God, I'm just a line. I never want to be anything. But then you get to be a square and you say, how was I ever able to function as a line? Because you've expanded. So part of this is they're just saying, if you do, the worst thing you can do is to do nothing. And this is the way of their humor. Like if you just keep on doing the same things that you always have between that little window, it's like they're saying your job is to plant the seeds and our job is all the stuff after that. Like if you plant the seeds, you're going to expand, you're going to evolve, it's going to be amazing. If you do nothing, or if you just keep doing things the same way, nothing's going to happen. You're just going to recreate what you know. So they're saying, if you do nothing at all, if you don't even want to think about it, just do things that you don't normally do. So this week when I was doing a reading for somebody, the guide said, Melissa, what if you go to a restaurant and order liver and onions? It's like, I'm like, what? Like, that's the last thing I would ever do is order liver and onions. And they're like, exactly. Like you can actually do things that you would never think about. And they're just saying, even if you do just things that you never do that. But hopefully with intention, we can plant some seeds of like, well, if I'm a 7.0 version of me now, what does a 9.0 feel like? What would I tweak? And I tell you one thing, after getting this luscious dream come true assignment about laughter, is I'm going to incorporate a lot more laughter. What if we were to strive for 300 laughs a day like children? How might it change our lives?
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. Like it's so intoxicating.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I'm really grateful for those magic beans, and I'm ready for whatever the 9.0 looks like. But one of the things that you tucked in there, as you were saying, explaining what the guide said, and I do want to highlight it, is you use the word intention. So how relevant is that word intention? I feel like it's like super important at these exact moments.
Truly. I mean, because, they always say, and it's so true, whatever we focus on, we get more of, whether it's what we don't want or what we do want. But most of the time, the big thing now is that we're so pulled away from any focus. We're so distracted by all the things. And it's like if we actually said, like, for example, I just did a 3-day fast, which is like a reset, Dr. Mindy Pell's, and so I just woke up today thinking, my gosh, how different do I feel after 3 days from the way I felt Tuesday morning, after just a 3-day not eating. And it was so joyful because I didn't have to decide, what am I going to have for dinner? It was like, what am I going to drink? What am I going to drink today? Water, more water, black coffee, tea. It was so easy and freeing. But, the first day you're kind of like, why am I doing this? And the second day you're like, I don't know. But the third day, you're like shot out of a rocket. It's Dr. Pell says that it's people pay tens of thousands of dollars for stem cells. And she's like, why? After 72 hours of a fast, your body creates new stem cells. It's a whole new refreshing reset. So to me, that's a good example of being really intentional about, I'm going to do this thing for 3 days that I never do any other time, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to see what happens with it. And like, it worked. And I do feel like, whoa, on top of the world, a lot of energy. It's completely the opposite of what I felt like on Tuesday morning, after the holidays and all that. So if you can just say, remember on your calendar, put a note on starting February 20th, magic beans, sow my seeds, create my garden, and then let it go after June 1st. It's like, okay, I did my job. Like just something like that. And put lots of laughter in there, something different. Go order liver and onions.
Perfect. I love that you can just jump in and do things. Interestingly enough, I have always tended to do stuff, sort of jump into it without thinking, and more times than not, it was pretty magical. But I've had people in my life pull me back from that, like try to get me to stop doing that. That's not good. Those kinds of things. So I'm just so excited that you gave me permission to continue living my life like that.
You better believe it. And I know the guides keep saying that this year has to be autonomous with we plant our seeds. We don't borrow some from our husband and plant those. Like, it's really us do this. And if you do this for yourself, it's going to benefit everyone around you, everyone you care about, for sure. So to me, it's just, what an amazing time to be alive. And the other thing about the end goal of this, and the guys keep saying, I think we're all so tired of the mind stuff and how our mind, to just being the embodied experience, the felt experience. And that's what they say laughter automatically does. It's turnkey, it's embodied. And, recently, to give you like something that, again, you don't really see coming. So as an intuitive person, when I get worried or if I get anxiety, it's usually pretty pointed, like I should feel it. Like, fear is such a gift, like don't go down that road or don't go down that dark alley. But recently I had some kind of anomalous anxiety coming up about something. I mean, it was pretty just dramatic and unexpected and surprising. And I remember thinking, what is this, something that I should care about, or is this like a real warning signal? So long story short, I asked my guides, hey, I usually don't bother them, but like, hey, what's going on here? So you know what they did? The beauty of this, they said, we're going to give you an example and an experience of what life is going to become on the other side of this expansion, that we're talking about. So instead of giving me words, which they knew would never fly, because my mind would have just taken it and run with it and doubted it and questioned it. So instead of that, they put me in a kind of reverie where they took me to the other side, where all of my loved ones and people I had known, admired, my ancestors that I didn't know or did know, my pets on the other side. And it was this field of love. It was an actual field of love. So in about 2 milliseconds, my nervous system just shifted, so that then I felt that I know that I am this love. And so then they took me through this cool experience of my horse on the other side, who was always our spiritual teacher, looking at life and people through his eyes, which was such a cool experience. And I've always wanted to know, what is that like to see through the eyes, But basically what the guides told me, and what the experience was being filled with so much love and joy, that when I went to this experience that I was dreading, worried about, they said, just shoot down the road. You're sending this love field before you. You're going to fill the whole building with it. You're going to fill the machinery, the equipment, the people who work there, the people who are just there, all the spaces in the hallway. And you're then it's already there, and it's coming out of the top of the building. And then you're going to get in your car that day, and you're going to be that love, and you're going to show up and you're going to see. So immediately I went from this sense of dread to I can't wait. I can't wait for this. And so when the day came, it was about a week later. I experienced some things that I've never experienced. First of all, when I drove up, my sign from the guides is always the 55s, 555s. That's like Archangel Michael. Everywhere I looked, it was almost like every car in the parking lot was a 55. I was like, what? So I go in, and it's just like this heightened atmosphere. But then when the person came to take me back for the test or whatever medical thing, which was fine, she looked me in the eye, and I looked her in the eye, and we both started crying. But it was just like, because I saw her through the eyes of love, and she felt me experience her as love. And so there we are, two strangers in this momentary second of just crying, with joy, with recognition that this is all there is, and that's all we need to know. It's so this, imagine the difference between I'm in my mind trying to feel better, they're going to make me feel better with words or whatever assurances of it. They realize like that doesn't fly anymore. You have to feel it. Yeah. And then we're going to give you this whole thing that you've never experienced before. And you're going to have this joy and you're going to spread joy. It's incredible. Like it was, I can't even put words there. So imagine if that's what we're coming into, like, oh my gosh,
Well, as you're sharing this story, I'm like, this is the new normal. Like,
definitely.
I would say this is the future, but it's not the future. It's now. This is the new normal. Like, we're literally in the transition phase of that. And it was just like so beautiful. I could feel it. Now, that's a little hard to follow up. But I'm going to ask you, if you're up for it, would you like to do a 90-second joy reset? It's not going to be intense, what you just went through.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. This is for everyone in the audience to join in. Now, this reset, it's not about forcing laughter or positivity. It's more about just gently signaling safety to the nervous system. So let's start. First, let's ground ourselves. Wherever you are, just take a moment to notice your body in the space. Feel the support beneath you, the chair you're sitting in, the floor, your feet. No need to change anything. Just notice. Now take one slow breath in through your nose and a longer, softer exhale out through your mouth. Let your shoulders drop just a bit. Not all the way, just a little. One slow breath. Now, and this is optional if you want, bring to mind something mildly pleasant or amusing. Not the happiest moment of your life, just something light. A small smile moment, a memory. Someone holding the door open for you. The smell of coffee before the first sip. Laughing at your own joke. Even if you're rolling your eyes a little right now, that's perfect. It still counts. If a smile comes, let it. If it doesn't, that's completely okay too. Lastly, try a quiet inner gesture of lightness, a soft smile, a gentle exhale, or even a silent, this kind of feels nice. This is enough. Your nervous system just received a signal of safety. Thanks for joining me in the exercise. That was just 90 seconds, and it didn't require fixing or forcing anything. Melissa, Your thoughts on how moments like this might be woven into everyday life in a way that feels natural rather than another practice to do or I have to get it right.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's just so cool. What came to my mind during that brief interlude was recently I got some new cleaning stuff for the bathroom. Never used that kind before. Clean the bathroom with it, the drains, and I see my cat approaching like a banshee, like she's like wild-eyed, and she comes into the bathroom and she's like smelling all the drains and she's like crazed. And then I see that she wants to like lick it, and I realize like this can't happen. So I try to get her out of the bathroom, which has double doors. Well, it's almost like she gained super feline strength. Like she could have like stopped a freight train. So I'm trying to close the double doors on my cat, keep her out because she's gonna like drink this stuff. And so I get the doors locked, and then what do? I text my husband, like he's downstairs. I'm like, oh my God, Twinks, because then she starts beating on the doors. Like it's like thunderous. It's like somebody's like gonna break in. And I'm like, Twink's gonna break down the bathroom doors. Come save me. And then I just realized like she's 8 pounds, and this is like this crazy thing. And I just start laughing, like convulsing, and he's like, what? Like, okay, but she was pounding so loudly on the door. And it was just something that's so random. Like even the craziest normal things that we do all the time, every day. It's just can be so much fun, another thing, a friend of mine that our nickname for each other is Piole, which stands for Partner in Uncontrollable Laughter. She took, I didn't know it, but she took a picture of me in a full laugh, and she sent it to me, and it's just priceless. Like there's something about it that gives me joy every time I look at it. And I think everybody, if you have someone just somehow get a picture of you randomly laughing, like it's does something for you. And I know like Mel Robbins says to do the high five in the mirror. And I'm telling you, even if you're in the worst mood and you do this high five, you can't not smile. Like high five, you're gonna get lifted up. So there's ways. I even like look for it everywhere. I had sliced a tomato recently, and it had a giant smile. So of course I took a picture. It's like, oh my gosh, look at this. So look for it everywhere. It's just like weave it in to your day. Like it's so spectacular, just these moments of levity. And another thing that science has proven is if you watch something funny before sleep, before bed, you get a much deeper rest, a much more robust night of rest. And so I've been doing that with America's Funniest Home Videos, or anything, Candid Camera, old reels. And it's amazing what a tonic it is. It really is a tonic.
Oh my God, I love that. So, as we were coordinating for this interview, you had attached that picture to an email. And as soon as I opened it up, Melissa, I have to tell you, I just busted out laughing. There was something about the picture that made me smile. It warmed my heart immediately. And just because we have some past experience, I was like, oh my God, this is just so Melissa. I love it. So, and it's like that simple picture has brought joy to people you probably don't even know.
It's really amazing. I mean, and I just think I wasn't expecting that it would be so profound. She loved it, of course, but I just thought like this
She
is
probably
like
thought she was just messing with you. Little did
exactly
she know.
like it was just so. I recommend if you can get that someone else, it has to be unplanned. I think you have to be. And another thing, science says that we can discern, our brain can discern the difference between staged or canned laughter versus the real thing. But a lot of times it doesn't even matter to even the act of a smile can start, even if we're fake laughing, or even the yoga laughter where you feel like this is dumb, what am I doing, like, but then all of a sudden it really does have those benefits. Just some of the things you think about, the laughter and the peals of laughter and the different types of laughter, and And the other thing that's interesting is when comedians, I mean, if you think about the cult nature of stand-up comedy, and it's like a lot of times it's 3 a.m. you might get a 5-minute set and they just can't stay away. It's like it's an addiction, but it's just like they say that getting the laugh is so much more psychologically beneficial, even when the audience is having the greatest time and they're being of service to the audience, but when they get that laugh, they're like, there's nothing like it. And then they crave it. And that's why, we have this, even this morning I saw there was a documentary trailer about Mel Brooks. And the trailer itself was just different comedians cracking up, explaining how Mel Brooks inspired them. I want to do that. It's all about the laughs, the laughs. And so it's fascinating too, to think if you start noticing how much you laugh or don't laugh. Like the other day, I just started to observe, and my mom and I got on the phone, and it wasn't even 12 seconds. And throughout the conversation, we just laughed and laughed repeatedly. And they say, get with people that make you laugh. And also, one of the best compliments you could give someone is to laugh at what they're doing, not at them, not at their expense. I used to have a friend, and we would talk on the phone sometimes after the work week, and he would make me laugh so hard for so long that I just have to hold the phone. I'm like, hold on. I would have to hold the phone away, and he could hear me just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing, and then another joke, but it was the biggest compliment. What more could we want? We know that we're making someone laugh so hard that they can't even speak for a couple of minutes. Like, it's the best exchange, really.
It truly is. It truly is. To the point where you can't even talk.
That's the best. Like the no holds barred. This is what I'm doing. This is just the state that I'm in. Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So,
and you can always go back to those in your memory. I think they somehow stick with you because they just that feeling. It's almost like, I want to say it's an addiction. It's not an addiction. It really just is. I'm going to say it's a medicine.
it is absolutely. I mean, and even in the Bible, it was mentioned how laughter is medicine. It's incredible. Oh, rats laugh, monkeys laugh. Oh, and speaking of that, my parrot, we have a parrot that's probably almost 20 years old. And she recently, we do a little walk in the evening with her on my shoulder in the house. And all of a sudden she started laughing. And I'm like, because she's never laughed before. And I'm like, what? We're laughing now? And then it was like, ha, 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 ha. But then it's like, so I must laugh so much that the parrot actually picked it up. But then what I noticed, I show her parrot videos, on my phone for her. There's this parrot named Cruz. I'm like, Cruz is your boyfriend. But the other day I showed a little clip of Cruz doing something funny, and I wasn't laughing. She started laughing at Cruz.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is this? This is the best, So speaking of just the joy of it.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's intoxicating, and it's definitely contagious. Yeah.
Yes, both of those for sure. So as we're going to come to a close with this conversation, Melissa, what is one simple way people can invite a little more laughter, joy, spiritual lightness into their lives this week? Give themselves permission, even just today. Something that feels doable even on hard days.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, think of those funny, ridiculous things that you experience that you don't even think about. And it reminds me of the movie way back called Money Pit with Tom Hanks, where the house was just like constant, money pit. And he so many times in the film got to the point where you're so out of your mind with frustration and anger and rage and despair that you just start laughing. And it's funny because just this week, my air in my tires in my car, they needed air. So my husband went out there with his compressor, and he checked all the pressure and put the air in the tires and put them all back, put the compressor away. My only job was to figure out how to reset the tire pressure monitoring system. So I'm like on YouTube, and I'm like, trying to do it. That didn't work. And then I've got my 600-page owner manual out, and it's like, page 595, go to 323. And so it's like, if you could see my husband, he keeps coming out, like looking at like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, like what? Like what? I just had lunch and you're still in your car trying to figure this out. And it got to be so frustrating that I just automatically started cracking up because of the ridiculousness, and yet it was hilarious. So how many times are we so frustrated that we're not even thinking about laughing, but it just happens? Like, almost people say, if I weren't laughing, I'd be crying. And so even those just silly little things that come, where the other day I had 5 minutes to do something, but then I spilled all this stuff all over the kitchen during the 5-minute thing, that it turned into like an hour cleanup. And all I could do was just laugh. So, but to me, remembering people that, that have the funniest laugh, that their laughter alone, but also those amazing memories with your loved ones. I know you had mentioned that when you were living abroad, that you had these pictures of just people laughing, right? That your loved ones, like, that's so valuable.
Well, it shifts all the memories in your mind. So versus the staged, holiday pictures or those kinds of things, they were, as you said, people that were caught in the moment of just a random, genuine laugh. And I had them all over. And every time I would look at them, I would smile, but it would also, shift the memory into
Absolutely.
a beautiful memory. Yeah.
I just feel like, laughter is so much more powerful than we know, and I think of a living, walking, talking, breathing master teacher of our time is Byron Katie.
Oh,
And
definitely.
she even has reels of when people dissolve into laughter about, their big problems. But, she had told the story of going to a doctor's appointment and getting a very dire diagnosis, and how all she could do was laugh, and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And the doctor, of course, thought, we got a live one here. She's nuts. But it could never abide, like, whatever that diagnosis was, it never came to be. And, when she had been in the desert walking with her dear friend and he had a heart attack, they were away from cell phone range, and she couldn't help but laugh with him. I mean, she just started laughing, and he got so outraged, like, how dare you? I could die. What are you doing? But then later he started laughing, and they both just went on their way. So I think it shifts more than we can possibly know. It puts us in such a high frequency, a high, dimension, that this could be the answer or the thing that we've been looking for.
It was
So
right in
I,
front of us the whole time.
I have to thank you for picking this topic for me, not even knowing how near and dear it was to me, my essence, but also what I learned and gleaned from actually doing a deep dive into what is known and what is scientifically proven, but also, what the guides always bring, is it is cathartic. It is joy. It is the field of love. And so have at it, right?
Perfect. I love it. Melissa, thank you for sharing your insights, your humor, and deep compassion with us. It is always, always a pleasure, and I always get my own giggles when we talk. This conversation truly offered a beautiful reminder that laughter and lightness aren't distractions from healing. They're part of the medicine, and much more powerful than we think. I think that we're going to find them to be part of the new medicine, the new healthcare. Truly grateful that you joined us today.
Thank you. I cannot even express, my full gratitude. It's funny, the guys, just as you were saying, it's like, it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to healing. It's a shortcut to alignment. It's a shortcut to what you really want. So, my gosh, it gives us, not only is they're saying it's not only a suggestion, it's more of a soul directive. Include
Ooh,
this in your life, include it every day. So thank you so much. I have no words. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.